Do you know what I was thinking before we started today?
What was that, Will?
I was thinking, this is good, this, isn't
It
it?
is good, this, isn't it?
I was thinking, it's good, this, isn't it, John?
It's good.
It is good, this. We're all
It's
back
good.
together. We're in Angel Gardens, the garden of angels.
Yeah. It's
Isn't it?
coffee. It's our coffee shop. is
Yeah.
what
How
we're
did you
in.
come up with it? It wasn't your name, Angel Gardens. That was what was
No,
it.
Angel Gardens is the name of the building
Okay.
that we're in. This is Pot Kettle Black.
Pot Kettle Black.
Sounds
Great
good.
coffee shop.
Sounds good. The name sounds good.
It does. It sounds mysterious.
It does sound mysterious. And I'm going to keep it mysterious. I'm not going to tell you if you're listening and not watching whose voice that was before. I'm just going to keep you guessing.
It's a nice
Who
voice,
said
isn't it? It's a very
it's
calming
mysterious?
voice.
Yeah, it's got
Fish
a
and
very-
chips.
The guest is a very
Fish and
calm
chips.
voice.
Yeah.
Mysterious. Say fish and chips for us.
Fish and chips.
Fish and chips.
Fish and chips brew.
I don't know if that's...
Fish and chips.
You sound a bit like Welsh. I'd say more Welsh than Australian.
Anyway, firstly, welcome back to Mike, who's been snowboarding.
Mike Flanagan.
Mike, how are you? How was snowboarding?
Great.
First time, because you don't get to snowboard a lot, do you?
No,
When
when
you
you play professional rugby. No, I spent a lot of time.
Is that in the contract? No skiing, no
No
snowboarding?
skiing, no snowboarding. Spent a lot of time on the piste. 3 days, and then on the piste
On the
as well.
piste. Yeah.
Afterwards, lots of beers, lots of falls.
You're the best.
I'm the best. Great time.
Yeah, it was good, was it?
Yeah, it was good.
It was good. And John, you haven't been snowboarding, but you've been upsetting people again.
Have I? I don't
Yeah,
know. Have I?
yeah, you've been upsetting the Cass fans.
Oh, dear, why?
You know, normally it's who's he upset before? Derek Beaumont and Lee, and there's a few other.
Me and you.
Lee and you still need to set that charity fight up. But you have been upsetting the Cass fans.
Look how bothered he looks.
Over, John, I'll tell you if you don't know, over calling out their defence against their... actually, they won the game in the Challenge Cup against Leeds, but you called out their defence. So look, I thought I'd just, as we always do, just give you a flavour of what's on Twitter at the moment, because I know you're not on there. This one from Davy Boy 2411, which is a
Sounds
great
like a good lad.
Twitter name. He says, "Can we have?" Well, first up, he says, "Can we have a personal apology from Jamie Peacock and John Wilkin?" I know you can't apologise on Jamie Peacock's behalf. Maybe we can in a couple of weeks because
yeah.
he's coming on
We
the
can ask
podcast.
him.
But apparently, Cass have no defence. Doesn't seem that way to me. So, will we get a public apology?
No, it was prior to that game, the defence was bad.
But during that game, you were happy with it.
No, it's what you call pre-game comments, Will.
Okay.
So it was just pre-game, trying to
Comments.
build a bit of a story.
Yeah.
And Cass defended
A
well.
narrative.
What a lovely story it
Yeah,
was.
it was a great story.
What a lovely
Sells
story.
papers, all sorts of.
It's lovely.
Well,
Just
look,
comments pre-game,
And, you
isn't
know,
it?
I scroll down a little bit more. Don't shoot the messenger, but Holes says, Jesus, John Wilkin loves the sound of his own voice. A whole lot of confidence about coaching for someone who has no clue about it whatsoever. Yawn face emoji. Lewis says, you think John Wilkin was
Is that a Super League coach who commented?
Yeah, yeah. It
Is
was,
that, what's his name?
that was
What's-
Brian McDermott.
What,
This one from Lewis, he says, you think John Wilkin was an immortal the way he goes on? I'll just go through a few more. Kimber says, Wilkin is a tough listen, Jesus. Richard says, Wilkin makes Phil Clark sound impartial. Stephen says, does John Wilkin have any other crack except stating the obvious? David Mason, love this one, says, John Wilkin is a great advert for cancelling your Sky subscription. Michael writes, John Wilkin has hair dye for breakfast.
Yep,
I'm not sure what that one is. A laugh from someone over there as well. That's obviously touched on
I'll
that.
take the other jabs, but he's got personal there.
That was personal. Just a couple more. Actually, quite a few people said just wrote John Wilkin and laughing faces. Jane Eyre, I don't know if that's the original Jane Eyre, but she wrote, please turn off John Wilkin's mic. Love this one actually from Steve, who says, please, if you want to increase the number of rugby league viewers, don't ever let John Wilkin near a microphone again. It was embarrassingly bad, utterly unbalanced and tactically clueless. And last one, FPL Stoop Tiger simply says, John Wilkin is a right fucking bell end.
Great.
Wow. Very balanced.
Just the
there.
flavour.
Quite
It's
good,
just
balanced.
the flavour of what was. I don't think they were all Cass fans, John.
Some good and some
There's a
not
range
so
of
good.
the teams in Super League.
Lovely, Will.
And we
isn't
should.
isn't it nice knowing what everybody thinks about you?
But look, if they're it's good. If they're talking about it, it's good. No one's talking about us. I mean, there's
No,
nothing about
no
you.
one talks about me,
You put
'cause
Mike Flanagan's name in and Will Perry. Nothing comes
I
up.
disagree wholeheartedly on that, Will.
Nothing comes up. There's nothing in. There's stuff from like 2014.
I disagree wholeheartedly. Nothing said about you. You know as well.
Anyway, look,
Will.
Anyway,
You know.
Should we?
You know.
Hey,
Hey,
if we want to search of Will Perry next for next week's show, couldn't
Yeah,
we?
We
that's
could
it.
do that if we want to
That's
stoop
it.
to Will's level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We might not do it, but Will
Yeah.
knows. That's
Yeah.
all I need to say.
I don't know what
He
that means,
knows.
but I'm just laughing. Look, we should say welcome to this week's guest, who is, by the way, a rapper, a commercial pilot, a crypto billionaire, who also happens to play a little bit of rugby league as well. So
Wow.
we have essentially,
get
we've
that
got
from?
2 former loose forward West Tiger players and 2 Salford, 1 former captains in the studio
Yeah,
today.
In the studio.
In the studio.
In the studio.
In the
Good
Garden of
spot.
Angels.
That's a good spot.
Please welcome, John, the Salford Red Devils, the current captain,
Yes.
Mr. Elijah Taylor, everybody.
Hey.
Welcome, Elijah.
Look at him.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for
Elijah,
having me.
E.T. phone home.
No, I've heard that a lot.
Have you?
I've heard that like my whole life. But no,
We did that
thanks
too.
for having me. It's cool.
No, it's good
Cool
to have
be
you in,
here.
mate. It's really good to have you in. We've got so much to talk about. Firstly, growing up in New Zealand and a place called Hawera. Am I pronouncing that right?
Hawera.
Hawera. Which, when I looked at, has a population of 10,000 people. That's a small place. What was that like growing up there? I mean, and just because I mean, people that listen to this podcast, you think we're stupid. There's a lot of idiots who listen to this. Just paint the picture of Hawera for us.
So I was born in Hawera, but 20 k's down the road, it's a smaller town called Pātea. I remember my primary school. There was about 40 kids at my primary school, and that was from 8 years old up to like 12. And then it was a really small town. I grew up on a farm, dairy farm. Not many neighbors. You had to catch a bus to school. The bus trip was like an hour to get to school because you had to do a loop to pick up all the kids. So it was a lot different growing up in New Zealand, country town. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the memories I had growing up on the farm. I'll never forget them. But no, it's just good to be here in Manchester. It's very similar, like the weather, the people. It's pretty chilled. So yeah, I'm enjoying it here.
When you say growing up on the farm, I'm always interested in that as well, because John, as he likes to tell people, grew up on a farm. He was a son of a pig farmer.
Pigs.
Phil, if you haven't met Phil, big shovel hands. He grew up shoveling on pig shit, basically.
A proper man.
But I remember interviewing Bevan French, obviously Aussie Bevan French, but he grew up on a farm, and again in a place where there were, I think it was what we would call here a hamlet, where there were like 300 people.
Yeah.
I mean, that's very different, because you've lived in Sydney, you're now living in Manchester. It's a very different experience for you.
It is, and I think, just being real grateful. We didn't have much on the farm, but when you grow up on the farm, you have to make your own entertainment kind of thing. You have to, I don't know, go build tree huts or go help Dad on the farm. We grew up on a dairy farm, so Dad was milking early in the morning, and then we're milking late at night in the afternoon after school. So there was always work to be done growing up on the farm, and even on the weekends you'd go hunting or go shooting or go fishing down at the creek, catch some eels. There was always something to do.
Catching eels.
Yeah, they're like snakes in the water kind of thing.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know if they're here, but
No, we have. We have
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, my bad.
Well, do we have eels in Manchester? We know what jellied eels. We've got jellied eels.
Yeah.
Cockney thing.
but that's what I was like growing up.
Nice memories,
on the
though.
farm. Yeah, it's good
Yeah,
memories
great,
with all my
great
brothers.
childhood. That
Yeah.
sounds like sort of Forrest Gump days, isn't it?
Yeah, those days, I can't imagine people living those days, especially in the UK anymore, with Xboxes and TVs and stuff. That very organic, simple way of life is probably...
I think
Gone into the
in the
past,
country, I
Yeah,
think
maybe, yeah.
I think the countryside has a lot to offer. I think young people, like, I think it's an amazing. Like, I love my childhood because I was in the countryside. Like, it's an amazing space to just, play, explore. It's safe. You can do all these things, and there's no pressure. There's less antisocial behaviour, less crime, and all of that. I loved living in the countryside.
Yeah.
I actually feel for people who are brought up in cities to some extent.
Same. Yeah.
Because I'm like, wow, what do you do? You're like bred in captivity. Things, there's danger everywhere. There's and I just think, wow, like.
You're back in the countryside now, aren't you? Really?
Yeah, I don't like cities.
No, I don't, but I have to
I don't-
work in one. I
Yeah.
I agree with you. I hate working in the city. I live in London and I hate it.
Yeah.
I'd rather be on my own on Elijah's farm.
Yeah, there's something to it. The isolation of countryside for me as an law, I like that. I'm always attracted to it. Whereas the cities are so intense and busy. I actually think it's easy to get lost in a city, as in like lose yourself. People reinvent themselves, go to a city, and it's easy. A lot of people disappear into cities and change. Whereas I think the countryside forces you to actually reflect on who you are. If that's pretty deep, but that's why I've gone back to the.
We like to,
it's true.
we
It's
like
so
we like
true.
talking about your pencil dick, and then the next minute we're talking
great.
about the meaning of
Depth.
life,
Great.
which we'll get to later. Elijah, so much I want to ask you, and I know we've only really got about an hour, but we will lock the doors until we're finished. so
Okay.
there's no leaving.
No worries.
What I really wanted to ask you first up is, because you're from Maori descent, yeah? And I know a lot of people listen to this podcast, or they've heard people of Maori descent, but they don't really know what that means. So try and explain what it's like being a Maori. And I was actually looking into this, and you'll know far more than me, but the history of the Maoris I find quite fascinating. A group of people that came over from East Polynesia in the sort of 1300s by canoe to New Zealand and settled there over a period of years. What does it mean for you to be a Maori? And is that something that's a sort of daily presence? How proud are you to be of Maori descent?
Yeah, so the Maoris are indigenous people of the land of New Zealand. Rich history, a lot of, I suppose, intertribal warfare that happened between different tribes now, but that's all gone. It's I'm really proud to be Maori, and it's it's just, I don't know. I don't know how to elaborate more on that, but
No, but I guess it's people who've come from, I know it's so long ago, but it's people who've come from hardship, and the fact that there's still, obviously in Australia as well, and all the islands, it's a huge thing in that part of the world, which we're kind of oblivious to over here, really, aren't we?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, it's nothing. I don't think it's anything like different, like compared to like growing up. If I grew up just a Kiwi in New Zealand, like a Pākehā, like the Māoris were treated. I grew up, everything was normal, like normal living. It was. What I will say, like the culture, I think the culture is pretty cool. It's pretty different. We went to kohanga when I was young. Like we did the haka every morning. Like
Did you?
Yeah. You had to do the haka every morning, and that was like your first thing at school is learn another haka or learn a.
So when you say
waiata.
at school, so
This is like.
They used to do
Yeah,
like,
but
legit,
toddlers.
like at assembly, they used to do a hacker, wouldn't
Yeah.
they?
It was
but
just
the
normal.
non-indigenous people would do that as well in your school, or was it?
Yeah, and if they weren't indigenous, like you still do it, like the All Blacks.
Yeah,
Like,
of course, yeah.
Everyone knows the haka, like when you're a toddler, and that's when you want to be an All Black because
Yeah.
they do it, and that's why New Zealand.
And that is a
It's just-
Maori dance. The
Yeah,
haka,
it's a walk.
There's something so special about that in life and in sport. I think people are nowadays are really self-conscious, but when you see a hacker, they just completely lose themselves in the emotion of the meaning behind it and the pride of the country and the people. And I think, what's it like doing it? Because I couldn't imagine being an English lad. I couldn't imagine resonating with a tribal dance the way that you guys probably
I don't think I'd be that scared if you did the haka in front of me on a pitch.
because
With the
wouldn't-
tongue
it'd
out,
just be,
if compared to John
it'd just be-
Olomu or
it'd be awful, wouldn't it? So
Yeah,
I
so
think
like
ET could do it.
when you're young, you learn it off by heart. You learn all the actions. You learn the new one, the next one, and then it's just normal. Like I suppose you get quite passionate, quite emotional, especially when you do it before a game. Like if you need to pick me up to get up for a game,
yeah,
like an international game,
that's
like
better than any team talk, that isn't it?
That's all you need.
Yeah.
Like I got goosebumps just talking about it.
Yeah.
But it's really special, and it's really special just in New Zealand culture thing. So everybody knows you're from New Zealand, and everyone's familiar with it. They must be.
Yeah,
It's an
New Zealand
amazing
Maori.
thing to face,
Yeah.
prior to a game. If
you
think
faced
about-
it, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you think
Yeah.
about it, it's crazy because rugby league is an aggressive sort of sport, and it's an emotional sport, and you've got to get yourself in a certain position mentally before you play it. And I always found like that the haka is an incredible thing to stand opposite. But I almost think, is it like an unfair advantage? You've got this huge opportunity to like everybody connect and get really united behind something. And I think, like you were saying, Flash, I think we miss some of that. Like we've got the national anthem, but we don't really get behind it as much. And I always looked on with envy at the haka as like,
Well, because the monarchy's so divisive anyway, isn't it? And it's not.
Yeah.
It doesn't
I think
unite
the anthem-
everyone
It's
now.
detached from the country. I think it's detached from the country and the people. Where you see, even in they have an All-Stars game in Australia where it's the indigenous Maori people against the indigenous Aboriginal Australian people, and they both have their war cries, the war dances, and because they resonate and they feel like the history of their people. Whereas I don't think the national anthem in UK, Europe probably has that same
It's too political, isn't it? Rather than actually historical.
Just a song, isn't it?
Yeah.
But there's more to this.
We
Yeah.
just pick that. We'll pick one.
Pick a new song.
Pick a dance. Like,
Pick a
we'll
dance. Yeah.
Something.
Turn it into
What
a
would
I'm
it be?
trying
hashtag.
to think of if we have an actually a sort of
The Macarena, but that's Spanish, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
or
YMCA.
The Okie-
you know,
oh,
the
no.
Spain-
Spain
Spain
should
should do the Macarena.
I think
shouldn't
the
they?
crowds must get you up though, like the
Oh,
English
well.
crowd, the chanting. I
Yeah,
remember
we're
my
too
first
busy fighting and causing
No,
trouble.
my
no,
first game at
not in
Cass.
rugby
I
league.
played Cass
There's a police.
Friday
there's
night.
police there, fighting
Yeah.
already,
Yeah.
fighting
But,
outside. Welcome to Manchester.
Get him off the field.
Just
Get
the
him off the
crowd,
field,
eh?
you dirty
The crowd
git.
is
is
like,
that different? Really
so different.
Really
So
different.
different. I remember my first game here in England. We played against you in Hull. I was playing for the
Home
Kiwis.
with John Wilkin. Hull.
No. He was playing for England. We all played in Hull.
Yeah.
2011. Yeah. But I remember the crowd, and I first time playing in front of an English crowd.
Yeah.
And I was just like, wow, what's this? Because they were just chanting the whole game. Like they did not be quiet one bit, and they won.
It's not like that in Australia and New Zealand,
It's
is it?
dead quiet in Australia.
Yeah.
It's
Why
so
is
quiet.
that? Why is it different? Why is it such a different atmosphere? I'm interested.
I
in
don't
that.
know.
Why
Good question.
Australian
honestly.
sports have got a different view on like how they. Because the atmosphere. What's the atmosphere like in an NRL game?
Like when you're playing, you can't hear anything. It's so quiet unless
Yeah.
it's a try.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
over
really?
here in a Super League game, the crowd's going crazy the whole time. The singing, chanting. It's so awesome. Like it's such an experience.
Yeah.
Like Cass Friday night round one. That was cool because I've never played there before. The changing rooms are crazy. That was an eye opener.
Crazy.
Like a shoebox.
That was an eye opener.
Yeah.
But the crowd, crowd was awesome.
Cass actually is one of my favourite away grounds because the sidelines here and the terracing's there and they're slagging you off, they're shouting at you, and the atmosphere is absolutely brilliant.
You need
100%.
hiking boots to get even to the try line, don't you? It's not very even that pitch. Sorry if the Cass
I
Groundsman's
loved it.
listening.
It was better than Leichhardt Oval. Like that Friday night game, it was the crowd chanting was crazy. It was awesome.
Something special about English sport. That,
Yeah.
isn't it? That we,
Yeah.
Definitely.
we take it for granted.
Granted.
special,
100%.
inverted
We take it
commas.
for granted.
No, it's not better, is it necessarily? It's just special.
No, it's unique. Maybe
Very
that is our
unique.
war cry.
Yeah.
We're saying we don't have a specific thing before the game. Well, one of our things is the atmosphere during a game, which is if you're New Zealand playing at Hull in front of 25, 30,000 English fans, that in itself is intimidating, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
And that's maybe our secret weapon is the fans, the ferocity of our fans.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll never forget that because that sticks in my memory.
Yeah.
The crowd just chanting the whole game. I think it was my debut as well, and I was just like, wow,
Yeah.
this is cool.
Well, you played a lot of union as a kid, didn't you?
Yeah.
You played for teams in Taranaki, in Northland, and in Auckland. And I mean, you've already mentioned the All Blacks because I imagine being a New Zealander, being a Kiwi, when you watch that All Black team play, whether it was this year or 20 years ago. So you're 30, you probably don't remember John Olomu
No, I do.
absolutely
I do.
crawling over
Yeah.
Mike Catt in the Rugby World
World
Cup.
Cup, yeah.
Do you remember that in
Yeah,
'95?
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So did you? Was the dream always to be an All Black?
Always, every kid in New Zealand that's probably playing rugby league now, they probably wanted to be an All Black when they were young, but they got signed to a rugby league club. So every young kid you see come through the New Zealand Warriors, they've all probably played Union or First 15 because it's so big. It's such a religion back in New Zealand. It's the World Cup. You talk about the World Cup. Schools stop to watch the game, or they'll cancel a lot of things because the All Blacks are playing. So that's just
So in New Zealand, again, I'm asking stupid questions, but because in Australia, rugby union is not the number one sport,
No,
but in
not
New
at all.
Zealand, it is.
It is
Yeah.
by far. It's similar here. Like football's number one here.
Yeah.
Rugby league's tiny in New Zealand. It's really small. Like
That must be a challenge for the Warriors or for rugby league in New Zealand then, if it's got such a big, like the All Blacks in rugby union is such a
Yeah.
big competitor to get over the top of, isn't
Yeah.
it? So that'll be the challenge for them all the time.
And I've read that book, Legacy. Have you read Legacy?
no.
Oh, you've read it,
yeah,
Mark,
it's
haven't you?
good.
Amazing. But again, kind of the mindset of the All Blacks. And to me, tell me if I'm wrong, but the whole country kind of adapts the mindset of the All Blacks.
Yeah.
The
Definitely.
collection of islands in the country.
Yeah, it's a
because-
cultural icon, isn't it,
Yeah.
for the country? It's a real, just a flag that they all look towards and kind of mould everyday life on. Stuff like brushing the change rooms after they finish, that's a real lesson for people in New
Standards.
Zealand.
Well, I'll just say
Standards,
this actually. Elijah turned up here tonight and shook everyone's hand behind the camera.
Yeah.
Like, whether him embarrassing him or not, that's like classy. Whether that's just, part of. His
Oh, Mark
DNA.
hasn't even said hello to them, and he's been working with them for 4 years.
I was there at 3 o'clock. I'll have you know.
Yeah. No, so it's good.
No, that is good. I did notice that. Yeah. So, am I right in saying you didn't play league till you were about 16?
18. Yeah,
18.
18. So
What position were you in Union?
open side flanker. So everybody loves Union back home. Like even the secondary schools, they don't want first 13 teams at their secondary schools. It's only first 15. It's crazy how they look at it. But I think the Warriors, they've got a lot of kids to choose from. The best first 15, and there's some great first 15 talent. So NRL clubs just fly, the scouts, they fly to first 15 games in New Zealand and just sign, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. They go sign Conrad Horrells. They go sign them when they're like, 16 years old on a first grade contract, and then get them into the NRL system. So
Was that difficult though, to having not played it, to learn that quickly, or because that seems to me quite late, 18, 17, 18.
League's a simple game. Like it's a really simple game. But it's just mentally and physically a lot tougher on your body.
It's harder
but
going the other way, technically.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah,
player-wise,
yeah.
especially if you're a forward. It's
Yeah.
There's
like
not
an
many that
absolute
go the
minefield.
other way, are there? Really?
No, 'cause it's very different games for.
Gareth Thomas,
Yeah.
not
You
many.
couldn't have been in much more technical position than flanker, though.
Yeah. I was young. I just wanted to.
So you're just competing hard.
Yeah, all the time.
Because that's the essence of that position.
Yeah,
You're just
yeah.
competing all the time.
Yeah, I think that puts you in good stead to play in the middle, playing rugby league, because you got to do that, or you're going to get run over, or you got to have that.
Were you a Sonny Bill Williams fanboy, a bit like John?
Yeah, I loved him.
Are you still in contact with Sonny Bill? Is he
No.
since he left? He's not really been in touch, mate.
No, I'll check my voicemail. Not
No, but you thought that was going to be the beginning of a friendship.
I don't think I did well.
No,
I
he
think what
did.
you're trying
He
to
did.
do.
No, he
is-
did. No, he did. He did.
is-
How was it?
Well, let me
John,
talk about
No,
Mark.
no.
No,
How
don't-
was it
why
at
do you want to get
how was it at
personal?
Toronto when Sonny came, and then like
Yeah.
what was it like?
It's crazy, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
I don't care who you are in rugby.
No, he's a hero. He's a ledge. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, there's people who walk into rooms and have charisma and a personality that's bigger than the room that they walk into, and he's one of maybe 3 or 4 people that I've ever witnessed
In
where-
rugby league.
maybe even bigger than that,
Yeah.
where they walk into a room and they've just got that and they captivate everyone's attention.
Mm-hmm.
And the weird thing
100%.
was, to do that at a club like Toronto, which was full of essentially championship players from a lower division, it was even more magnified. He's not walking into a really established dressing room, so for him to walk in, it was crazy. But yeah, just to go back on your point, Mark realised Sonny Bill was in Manchester, and you should see the string of messages he sent to me to get his number.
To get him on the
tickets.
podcast.
Is this like the Noel Gallagher story?
To get
Tickets.
tickets for a boxing match.
That's absolute bullshit.
Remember when you offered Noel Gallagher free vouchers for the coffee shop, and he
Yeah, I'm
told you
still
to fuck
looking
off?
for him, the little prick.
But on his name, that someone like that, was he kind of an inspiration in terms of that crossover which we were talking about?
Yeah, definitely. He was, especially 2004. I think when the Bulldogs were like the Dogs of War, and they used to be the best in the competition for 3 years there. Like every young kid wanted to be Sonny Bill Williams. He was skillful. He put on big hits. Like
He was
pretty
like
much
box
everything.
office as they
Like,
come, wasn't he?
He was
everything.
boxer. I mean, he was a boxer as well, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He was just like, if you could make a rugby league player that could just sell headlines,
Yeah,
do
everything.
a highlights reel on, it was him, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely, by far.
You had 10 years, I think, didn't you, in the NRL? And there may be more years after you've left Salford, who knows? What are your experiences? It's a massive question, but your experiences on and off the pitch, having had that long in the NRL?
Yeah, so NRL is a very tough, demanding competition. Every game is like really hard, physically, mentally. Seasons are quite demanding. The training, the pre-seasons they're getting even harder. Like when I started, like pre-season training wasn't that bad, but now it's just every club trains like Melbourne now, like wrestle sessions 2 times a week, sometimes 3 times a week, full contact on the field all the time. So it was really hard on the field, but off the field, I managed to look after my family and look at things of life after football. So I was very, very fortunate in that way. But a lot of good memories. Obviously, debut and then higher honours debut were some highlights of the career. But I really enjoyed it, but towards the back end, it just got really tough because training just
Yeah.
it just went like
You need to be in the right place mentally, don't you, to cope with such tough training through the week. Because I reckon we can all, when you're playing Flash, you can deal with tough games, can't you?
You can turn it on when you
By the
have to.
back end of my career, it was the days in the week that really challenged me mentally more than you know. If you get up for a game, sure.
It's a young man's game, I think, especially in the
Yeah,
NRL, because
that's true.
when you're young, you're just full of energy. You just want to compete all the time. But when you've done thousands and thousands of tackles and run thousands of miles during pre-season, the motivation just dwindles a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably what ET's referring to. When you get a bit older, and it just starts, for me it did anyway.
It does, it does
But
start
hold on,
catching up.
I want to come in there because I'm sure you said when you first joined Salford that Super League was more physical.
Yeah, like the Fords, like physically, like they wrestle, like the squeeze. I don't know, they're just stronger over here. If they feel stronger.
But you've got your equivalent of your Paulie smashing into people there, haven't you?
Yeah. But it's I don't know. It's different. Like there's more like footwork back in NRL. There's more footwork and trying to find your front. Where over here, it's just like
Big
bash,
bodies, yeah.
big bodies running straight. Like not much support runners with you. So good luck. But that's what I've noticed. The physicality here is that. That's why I believe like English forwards do really well back in the NRL because they're physically ready for that confrontation.
And what about, again,
contact.
off the pitch? And I know you said there my sort of ears pricked up a little bit when you went on, and I looked after my family because obviously you get paid so much more over there. And, you know, obviously the stars, the equivalent of being a star over there compared to here is just polar opposites. But the scrutiny off the pitch, and like, we all know the Burgess boys, don't we? And, you know, George is in the papers right now for bits and pieces. And, you know, Sam's been through his stuff. And is the magnifying glass just so much more intense there?
Yeah, the pressure is a lot more back in the NRL. They're probably number one sport in Sydney is probably rugby league, and every game is televised, every game is live. It's chopped up during the week. Like every 7 o'clock, there's a NRL show on Fox Sport, Channel 9, YouTube channels, social media. It's in high demand. It's watched by a lot of people. So there's a lot of criticism that comes alongside.
But do you
with
feel
that.
people then, you know, you feel journalists and you feel people coming for you?
Not so much for me because I was a back rower.
Yeah.
But I could see it with our halves. They're under the pump all the
The
time.
glory boys.
Yeah, like our fullbacks are under the pump all the time. Sometimes the props are. But when you're a back row, like, all you got to do is turn up and do your job, like, and work hard.
But you make a mistake off the pitch and they'll find you.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Like, saw that with Josh Reynolds like 2 years ago, I think. Like, they were just after him. I remember one time we landed from Brisbane and we all drove out in our cars in the car park and there was a police car. We all drove past and they waited for Josh Reynolds' car and then they flashed the lights. So it's just stuff like that. You're just like...
But John, let's face it here, I mean,
What?
you could basically do what the fuck you want here and no one really cares,
But
do they?
I suppose that's the sad thing. I think that pressure and scrutiny is a challenge, but it's also a symptom that the competition's vibrant and that the sport is very popular, you know. Elijah says about those highlight shows, the clips being on national television, being on the main channels, being pumped into people's psyches all the time.
All the
Ultimately,
time.
that's the aim, isn't it? Really, for any sport. So as the sport improves and gets better commercially, scrutiny increases, and that's what we want. I think I'd love it if it was like that here, but it's not, you know. And it's kind of nice because it isn't. And I
Because
get
they'd
it.
have a field day.
Well,
Well,
no,
it is,
yeah,
but you know, football is the exact equivalent, isn't it? You know, for example, you don't know your football that much, Elijah, but you know, Phil
Soccer, it means
Foden,
soccer.
Soccer, yeah.
soccer.
Sorry,
Phil,
right.
we don't call that
Translate.
here.
I'll translate.
We'll put you in the stocks and throw fruit at you if you call it
Cool.
that. But you know, Phil Foden, for example, is an England star. He plays for Manchester City. They're playing as we're here tonight, Atletico Madrid in the
good
Champions
team.
League. He went for a nice quiet night a few weeks ago to watch the boxing in the arena just next to us here. And some people found him and, you know, tormented him and followed him and chased him and said nasty things about his wife and his mum and his family and whatever. And as the culture we're in now, you know, they sort of tormented him and poked the bear till the point where he didn't react, but his missus did, and it was his mum did. And then, you know, his mum ended up pushing someone and it becomes a huge story. And that's the culture we're in, isn't it? And I imagine that's the same for NRL players.
That's the ugly side of the scrutiny, isn't it? Is that, but when you're in the public eye, right, you've just read out loads of tweets, which, you know, when you're in the public eye, you can't be surprised when people have a shot at you. You just can't be, and sometimes it's valid and sometimes it's not. But if you're in the public eye, it's coming one way or another. And I think the big difference between Super League and the NRL is there's just more people who are out to sort of scrutinise what you do. And that wouldn't suit somebody like myself. I wouldn't enjoy that. But also then the money comes with it. You know, it's like hand in hand. You can't have
And it's,
one without
it's
the
a reflection of society rather than sport or rugby league, whether it's Super League or the NRL. It's just fame.
Did you feel that when you went there? Because you went to West Tigers. Did you know? I know you weren't the glory boy and the halfback and whatever. But did you
like
feel
in England, no
more,
one has a clue. Who
No,
I
but did
am.
you feel more pressure than having when you were at Wigan, for example?
Not really, but my teammates, I could see so much more pressure on them than anybody I played with in England. So I was lucky enough to play with, Benji Marshall, who was the highest paid player, highest profile player in the NRL at the time. He would get followed all the time when we go for a coffee or we go for a night out, and he'd have good stuff said about him and bad stuff, and he'd just be a constant. Now it opened my eyes, and I could see what someone had to have to deal with. But that's, and you mentioned football before. That's why footballers don't mix and interact with the everyday man, because they get subjected to abuse when it's just not warranted, and that's why there's a massive chasm between high-profile professional athletes and the public, because
It's a sad reality of
It's
being
a
a
sad
star,
reality,
isn't it?
yeah. and it's just it's not how I would like to live my life.
Well, let's get away from that because we could be on that for hours, that subject. What I'm really interested in with you, and this is what I love about this podcast, especially with people that we've never met before, but when I was reading up about you, you spent 15 months when you were at West Tigers training to be a commercial pilot, which I love. And you are a fully trained, this is something that you could do post-rugby. So I guess the first question is, where did the passion for that come from? Where did the love for being in the skies come from?
I wouldn't say it's a passion. I was just worried about what I'm going to do after footy. Like, I was 29, I think I was, and I was thinking, like, if my career finishes, I ain't got anything to fall back on. And so that was my main motive, because I got a lot of responsibilities, family, etc. And I was just thinking, I got to get this done, just in case I get a really bad injury and I can't play footy anymore. So.
Did someone start that in your mind? Thinking like that? Was there a reason why you started to just think about the end?
Because I started getting dropped from Madge
Right.
at Tigers. So I was playing pretty good footy, and then Madge came, and then I was kind of on the outer. And then I was thinking, man, like, a lot of young boys coming through the Tigers ranks as well. So that makes you, like, laser focused. We were talking about that just before, about your cafe. And it just makes you really, think about, I've got to focus here because I've got responsibilities and there's life after footy. And that just made me study as hard as I can in between trainings and after training, just trying to get that ticket so I've got something to fall back on if I get a really bad injury.
But why the flying? Why a pilot?
I just thought it'd be a job where I'd wake up in the morning and I'd be keen to go to. Like, I'd be like, oh, yeah, sweet, where are we going today? Or where are we flying today? I just always thought that. My uncle's a pilot in Rarotonga, Uncle Sean.
Shout out to Uncle Sean.
Yeah, shout out to Sean Willis.
So you had it in the family, because I'm just thinking, because my stepdad was a pilot for 35 years, and you need to have a mathematical background, a sort of a geographical background, all these things. I mean, we'd all love to be a pilot, wouldn't we? I'd love to be the pilot in Catch Me If You Can with Leonardo DiCaprio, but it's not quite the reality.
Funny you say that, because I thought that as well. But I was talking to a former player. His name was Ben Harris. He used to play for the Dogs. He played for Bradford for a while.
I remember,
yeah. So he's a captain at Qantas on an A320. And we had a coffee. I had a coffee with him at Tigers training one time, and he just said, "I'll give you advice and I'll help you out if you need it." And he was saying that because I was worried about the maths, I was worried about all that stuff, and he was like, "Just study hard, focus on the books, and you can relate your pre-season training, hard work, and just switch it for study. It's boring study, but." He did it, and he said, I could do it. I just studied hard.
Because you said you were 29, and obviously, as we're recording this now in 2022, you're 32, so it was kind of just pre-COVID and whatever. You started having these thoughts, and during COVID, you racked up 200 command hours, as they call it, and you had to go through 9 exams. I mean, this isn't something that you just go like, do you know what, John, I fancy being a pilot. Oh, put yourself down to the pilot. Just have a little fly, see if you can do it. It's intense, it's serious, and once you commit to doing it, it costs a lot of money. It's a lot of hours. You've got 4 kids. It's a huge commitment.
Yeah. So thank the NRL. They helped me out. They really encourage you to go and study or go and find something. So NRL helped me out financially, but COVID was pretty much helped me out because I needed to get those command hours in order to get a license. So it was pretty boring. So down in Shell Harbour, down in Wollongong, you just
by the way, this isn't boring. It's pretty boring. I just trained to be a commercial pilot.
Yeah.
That's not boring.
Like some of the exams, you'll see it and you'll just be like, what is that? Like, yuck. Just graphs, maths, equations, everything. But you're just doing the same flight over and over again, trying to clock up hours as quick as you can. The gas was cheap because COVID was there. In Australia, we didn't go into full lockdown like you guys did here. I remember watching it. But again, the motivation was, if I have a bad injury, I've got nothing to fall on. Yeah. And I've got responsibilities.
So this is genuinely something that you're planning to do full time. This is your Captain Taylor. We could be flying Qantas to Sydney, and you could be flying that plane. This is something you're going to take seriously after rugby.
Yeah, definitely take seriously because a lot of effort they went into it, and I'm not going to do all that effort for nothing.
And what are the next steps? Do you have to do more hours? Is it more?
I've got to do my ATPL exams, so there's 7 exams. Small world. I was talking to my doctor at Salford. His son's
Tim, the old guy, Paxton.
Yeah, Paxton. His son,
the
Neil.
old guy.
So he's
got a young guy and an old guy. Doctor.
He's a British Airways pilot, and like small world, he was like, do your ATPLs here, and I could try and get you into the BA British Airways. So that'll be the next step, maybe.
It's quite a responsibility. I mean, I speak to my stepdad about it, and he's 70 odd now. He was British Airways and had to retire at 55, I think it was. They forced you to retire as a captain.
Good pension, though, about.
Good pension. That's why he lives in Mallorca with a little boat. But in all seriousness, you are responsible for 300 lives at a time. If you're flying an Airbus or whatever.
He's got a big family. He's nearly responsible for that amount of people anyway.
True.
Come on, kids, get in the growing.
That's why he's done his pilot's
Good holidays
license.
for the kids.
It's cheap holidays. He's gonna fly. He needs a Boeing 747, whatever to fly.
We loved it as a stepson of a captain. We used to sleep up in the tail of the 747s. There were bunk beds up there with the stewardesses, which was fine. And in the cockpit pre 9/11, we'd be in there. It'd be like, Joel, press that. What does that do? What does this do? What does that do? Cool. Obviously life has changed now since then, but it is an amazing lifestyle.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's footy slowly. I've probably got like 2 years left in the body. Something to look forward to after it.
Can you fly the boys from Salford down to Catalan and to Toulouse?
I could be first officer. I can't be command pilot. I could be first officer. I can't be the command pilot.
I'm interested in that point. Where people get to where you got to, where you start going shit. Right, I need to get stuff going here because I think it can never be too early when it comes to you, but it can be too late. Yeah. And I think the NRL does a great job at retraining athletes and players, and I think we're starting to do it, but it's a lot of personal responsibility on getting it right. But I'm always encouraged when people... I think we need to talk about more with that moment where it happens. It can be injury, it can be not being selected.
Elijah said the NRL helped him. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Super League, do they? Is there sort of
measures that goes around all the clubs discussing career pathways when you finish it. Probably not as in depth and as rigorous as the NRL, I must say, but there are steps in place. But at the end of the day, it's up to the player to choose to do something. If you can't be arsed and you want to play Xbox all day, well, just do that.
And that's where you've got to commit to something, whatever it is in life. If you want to do it, you commit to it, and then it's hard work. It can be boring. It can be tedious. But all those things are just designed to wheedle out the people who aren't going to stick at it for long enough anyway.
Yeah, it's true.
So if you just stick at it and commit to something, then the reward is at the end. But there's just not a lot of people. The realisation when you want to do something like that is once you start to do it, it's so easy to stop because it's tough or because of the workload and whatnot. And I think it's you know, it's credit to you, mate, that you
Hey,
stuck
hey,
that
don't knock the Xbox. There are kids out there
Well,
earning
yeah,
£900,000 for winning the World Cup on FIFA
Yeah.
and things.
How many?
You know?
10.
Well,
And
you know, you've got to be
million
the best. If you
people
want to be the
playing
best, you've got to
Xbox.
back yourself, haven't you? And look, and if Elijah doesn't work out as a commercial airline pilot, then he could be a rapper because you've got a rap career going as well. And
Is
Who
that
said
true?
that? Who
Is that
said
true?
that? Who
and
said
and
that?
and
There's
then
a
you got the
little-
crypto. You got
There's
the
a little
crypto.
mole at Salford that says you're a decent rapper.
Who said that?
Is that not true?
What's that?
The rapping stuff. Oh,
You can spit a few bars. I
Nah,
reckon.
I ain't got buzz. Nah, it's only just a hobby. But have you been talking to Kevin Brown?
hey,
No,
look at
no.
this guy here. He's
Oh,
the
no.
Salford mole.
I'm not a crypto billionaire, but by no means.
Have you been talking to Kevin?
A guy with a bad shoulder might have said that you're into your crypto and you're a decent rapper.
Crypto. I like,
Lee
I like it.
Mossop,
You
it
got
must
all
be
areas
the-
covered
no,
here.
Dan Sargentson might have said
wow.
that.
When did
Dan
the crypto
Sargentson.
stuff start?
That started when I first got here. So I got here, and the boys were into crypto, and I was just like, oh, what's this? And then went down the rabbit hole as you do on YouTube,
Yeah.
and then just find out that the the banks can't touch
Yeah.
it.
It's an insane world, cryptocurrency, isn't it? Really.
Can you explain it to me?
Well, Elijah, you explain it to John.
The banks
Just well, 'cause
can't.
we'll not
So like,
No, cryptocurrency is a digital currency. Yeah.
so I can send XRP to New Zealand, say $10,000, $50,000 worth of XRP to New Zealand in about 3 seconds.
Yeah.
That money's been transferred for free, no banks involved, no fees, no waiting 3 days. That's the power of the blockchain, and it can't be hacked. So if you try and do that through a bank, they're going to fee you, they're going to charge you. It's going to take 5 working days. When the money lands in New Zealand, their bank's going to charge you. They're going to charge their fee. So like it's definitely going to change the world.
But you're essentially buying kind of invisible digital coins.
Yeah, digital asset. Yeah. So it went
Massive
down.
risk. It comes with a massive risk, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. But you see the Federal Reserve, they're just printing money out of thin air, constantly printing money, and it's not backed by gold. That's why
Yeah.
inflation is going crazy right now because it's
But
not.
that's what fascinates me about crypto is it questions the whole concept of
The
of
financials.
physical cash,
Yeah,
doesn't it?
the
In terms
financial
of, and now
system.
we don't really live in a physical cash world, even more so after COVID, where it's a case of like, okay, well, you're saying that money, that bit of paper with the Queen's face on it is worth that. Well, I'm telling you that this shit mustard-coloured couch that we're sitting on is worth £85,000.
Not that
And
much.
what are you going to tell me? That's
Not
the that's the
that much.
concept
It
of
was
it.
expensive.
It's-
Not that much.
Yeah.
What is it where people are buying like parts of a sports game? Like one of our bakers.
Yeah,
NFT.
yeah. Oh, yeah, I've heard this.
One of
yeah,
our bakers
digital.
has bought a digital racehorse.
Yeah.
Non-fungible.
Yeah, it's
something
true.
like that.
Yeah,
But he bought a
Token.
digital
But why not?
racehorse.
But that's the whole point, John. It questions everything that we
Well,
have
George,
been
Warrington,
brought up to
Warrington
think
were
of
pushing this,
valuable.
weren't they? NFTs. George Williams did something with a shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember.
No, you
that,
can't be.
yeah.
That's it. You could buy exactly. You could buy a dog racing track in a digital computer game. How much do you want to pay for it? 15 grand? It's yours. 16. It's yours.
It's great.
Is that where we're going? Do you think with crypto and digital investments?
I think it's definitely got to change the world. How the internet changed. When the internet came, it changed the world.
Yeah.
Like Gmail, emails, everything. Put a lot of things out of business. Crypto is going to change the world. Like as soon as it gets mainstream, which it slowly is, I don't think there's any stopping it
We
because
just slow it down a little bit because our economy is actually just purely built on banking in London, isn't it? At the minute. So
Let's not
just
slow
slow
down
it
our economy
Just-
anymore.
It's not.
Don't try and get a mortgage now. I tell you.
it's just an inflation. The inflation's just going crazy because
Yeah.
they're just printing money.
COVID's changed a lot of that, hasn't it? And like, it's interesting you say all the timing of these things has come around that period of COVID, and I know a lot of people have been going into stocks and shares and trying to have a little side
You did a
hustle.
dabble, didn't you?
Well, we didn't do too well, did we? Look, let's get deeper than crypto, and let's talk about your faith, if you will, with us, because look, you're talking to 3 people who would walk into a church or a cathedral and we would catch fire. Because of how we
Well, you
behaved.
would, and
Well,
we-
I think we'd all agree.
We
with
just
that.
heat
I think
up a little
we
bit, I
just
think.
we don't need to to give more evidence. We just agree on that, shall we?
I'm fine. Yeah, whatever.
He's fine. Yeah,
I'm
and you're
Catholic,
fine
so
as
it's
well.
fine.
Yeah, no, but I'm genuinely serious about this because it's a huge part of your life, and we absolutely respect that. So where does that come from? Your faith? How important it is to you? How did it come into your life?
So someone shared, Jerome Ropati shared the gospel to me, shared back in 2013. He shared the word of God with me. and I was convicted of all my sins and what I've done wrong in my life. And the gospel says that you will be judged according to what you have done here, and that really scared me, and that really made me uncomfortable. And so I just kept reading the word, and then he was saying, there's a savior. That's why Jesus Christ came to save you from your sins. So when you can spend eternal life with him when you pass away, but and if you don't accept him, well, then you're separated from God when you pass away in a place of torment and anguish. So it was quite deep.
So, excuse my ignorance, before that, it wasn't in your life. It was this one moment
No,
which
not at all.
turned you to God.
What are your teammates?
I was your average footy player, setting goals, trying to play my best footy every weekend, week out. Focused on myself. I was just worried about myself. I was heaps selfish, heaps greedy, heaps everything. But when you hear the gospel, it convicted me of a lot of things, and it was really uncomfortable. Like I remember having that feeling. I was just like, man, this is awkward. But then when you come to the realization that the consequences of not.
So it was like an awakening and a moment.
Was that instant as well?
There was an instant. I doubted it. I went down the rabbit hole so many times in religion, the history of the church. Then you just go down another rabbit hole, like the Big Bang and how we're taught that everything was created from nothing.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense to me. And so I just keep reading the word. And Timothy, it talks about people will be lovers of themselves, they'll be greedy, there'll be a lot of jealousy, there'll be strife, anger, malice, and that's today's culture. We live in today's culture of exactly that.
The way you're talking there, would the Elijah Taylor of 3 years before that moment have looked at someone like you talking like you are and thought and been skeptical?
I think you're an idiot. I'd think, what are you talking about? You sound like a space cadet. I honestly think if I saw myself talking like that.
Was it right place, right time? It was when you needed it in your life?
Nah. No, I was playing good footy. I was playing for the international squad. I thought I was in control of everything. I was.
And home life was good at this stage?
Yeah, everything.
Yeah.
Because quite often people find faith
after a big event.
Yeah, I remember, talk about Sonny, he had some trials and tribulations in his life, and then a friend of his kind of gave him the option of kind of when he looked at Islam and this faith, and it was what he needed in his life to, you probably know better than me, to kind of get him back on the straight and narrow and kind of reevaluate where
Israel
he was.
Folau was the same, I think, yeah.
I think, it's interesting though, but if I imagine at the stage where you're listening to all these words, and you strike me as a really analytical guy, like you've gone into detail about crypto, you can get into a topic and go hard on it. But when you hear words that, I know this might sound like I'm really belittling how it is, but you've listened to a song and there's a lyric in it and you go, holy shit, like that just resonates with me, or it makes sense to you straight away, or you read a book and there's an element of it that just immediately clicks, with how you feel. Is that how you felt when it came to reading?
No, it was more my sin that when you look at the world and how corrupt it is and how evil, what's wrong with the world today, what the Bible says, it's sin, and in every human heart contains sin, and that's where our jealousy, strife, anger, malice, greed, lustful thoughts, that's where it all comes from.
So it was a realization of the things that you'd done.
A realization that that's what I am.
Yeah.
That's exactly my heart, my intentions before coming to know the Lord was be greedy, be selfish, get as much money as I can, think about myself, lusting, everything.
That's really interesting that you say that, because, and you quite rightly say, we live in a world now where that's
normal. Everybody calls that's a normal.
Yeah.
But it's as the years go by, it's more cruel, it's more critical, it's more questionable. So does that have its challenges in terms of your relationship with God? the world that we're in. I mean, and I know we develop and grow as human beings and adults, but the world 10 years ago wasn't as fucking mental as it is now.
Yeah, it's I don't know, like it's sorry, what was the question again?
No, as
Sorry.
in like because you said it's a cruel, it's a critical, it's a troll cultured world, it's a cancel world.
Yeah.
So does that have its challenges in terms of your relationship with God, which is as you said only started in 2013?
No, not at all. Not at all. I've still playing footy. I'm still been able to live my life. I'm still raising a lovely family. Hasn't really affected it.
How
to
have
be
you
honest.
changed since you found faith? Have you been more caring towards other people, more giving
Nah,
of your time and money? What's
My thoughts, my the intentions of my heart. Why do I think the way I think? Like when you sin, you've thought about the sin. So it starts in the way you think. So transforming the way you think. The Bible always talks about transforming your heart, softening your heart, and the way you think about certain things. Like before I came to faith, I was a footy player. I thought about, everything. But the more you read the Word and you spend time in the Word, the more it changes the way your heart and changes the way you think about things.
But what you absorb is what you are, isn't it? Essentially, if you
Yeah,
go
that's
around
true.
having meaningless sex and you're on social media or you're watching porn and you're doing all these whatever, what you absorb on a daily basis is what you become, essentially, isn't
Eventually,
it?
yeah,
So
eventually.
you have to check your life
so
completely
you
change in
ingest
terms of your.
more fulfilling stuff.
If you sponge up shit, you're a shit.
100%. Yeah.
But it's so hard in the modern world, like because
Definitely.
it's everywhere, isn't it?
Yeah,
Everyone's like obsessed with ego, self-interest.
yeah,
Like everyone's greedy. Everybody's
yeah.
self-centered.
Mm.
You know how many people are genuinely kind to people anymore? Like really
100%,
kind to
yeah.
people. Just be nice to people. Like, and I think that's religion is an amazing way to just reconnect with humanity, like how we are with each other. Like, and we've become more connected than ever, but more isolated and more distant from each other through technology,
100%.
through everything.
Without a doubt.
And we need to like remember the human side of the modern world. Like, there's wars, there's COVID, there's like all these things, like, and it's in an unprecedented sort of weird time. But I genuinely believe the only way through it is kindness to
Yeah.
each other.
Yeah.
You know,
Jerusalem's on your bucket list.
Yeah, that'd be a lovely place to visit. Egypt. I was talking to John before. Like everything's just a stone throw away. Like it's not even far.
You're going to do it while you're over
Italy.
this part of the world?
I'd like to, depending on COVID, depending on a lot of things.
he's been trapped in. COVID trapped him. He's not had a chance to do any travelling.
Yeah.
That'll happen.
I don't think,
Although
I think
I'll
even for an
solve for
agnostic,
keys.
or I mean, I don't know what we are. Are we agnostic? Are we atheists? Let's not even go into that. But I think even for someone who's not of faith, it would be a fascinating place to go, Jerusalem.
Yeah, it's a lot of history in that world history, in that city. A lot of religions, Judaism, Muslims, Islam, Christianity, they all stem from Jerusalem. So now it'd be a pretty cool city to visit. So I'm looking forward to that if I get the opportunity.
I want to get into a topic with you, and I'm aware that we haven't got too long left. And if you don't want to talk about this, you don't have to talk about
That's
this.
cool. That's
yeah. I mean, it's out there. Everyone knows
Yeah,
about it,
yeah.
and it's all over the papers. And it was a while ago now. And actually, and I'm not making this about me, but I have an identical story to this, which is
Oh,
quite
there you
interesting.
are.
Yeah. But I want to hear your side of it.
Yeah, cool.
So for those who don't know, in 2021, so last year as we record this, you discovered that your then player manager, a guy
Yeah.
called Ian Miles, who probably when I say his name, you shudder a little bit, because I know
It's all
certainly the guy
right.
that was
It's
involved with my story, if he said his name, I'd be...
Yeah.
A guy this is different to me, that you thought of like a father figure and had been in your life a long, long time, had essentially stolen, misappropriated around £200,000 from your personal account, from your business account, over the course of your career. Just before we get into the kind of feelings and the emotions behind that, just sort of set the scene of how that happened.
So I knew him. I was 16 years old at the Warriors, I think, 16. Built a great relationship over the years. He had worked with some young Crusaders lads. The Crusaders is a rugby union team, Super 15 team back in Z. He had worked with Olympic athletes, rowers, Storm Udu, Peter Taylor, Adam Hall. They're Olympians from New Zealand, they're rowers. And I just built up a really good relationship with him. He had history in sport. Like my background, like I don't come from much. No one's gone to uni in my family. Like no one's like didn't have much growing up at all. And so when I saw him and like I met him and I met the athletes, I met the Crusader players, I met the Olympians, and I was thinking, this guy's my ticket out of here kind of thing, like to change my circumstances the way I was brought up, so I could hopefully look after my family one day. So from like 2007 or 8, 7 all the way up to 2016, like we built a really strong relationship, like really strong. I'd text him, call him every day. If I didn't make the international team, like I'd ring up crying. If I got dropped from first grade, I'd ring up crying. Like after the game, can't sleep, I'll give him a call and we just talk about family. We talk about, that relationship on that level. So a lot of people don't understand the context of the relationship and why I'd let him access my bank accounts. So, moved to Penrith. We had a joint account. I gave him access to it just to help me save, give me financial advice, just help me make correct financial decisions. Because obviously I come from a background where none of that was, we're just living check to check, pretty much. So I thought, I'm in good hands here. So I just got a budget of $4,000 a month just to stick to, and I was happy with that. I decided on that. I was like, I'll pay my rent, get my food, and just focus on my footy. It's probably the first time discipline's actually cost me, like because I'm not a punter. I hardly went out with the boys, probably never went out with the boys, and I just focused on playing footy the best I could, like every weekend, week out for Penrith. And I didn't. So I got my $4,000 and the rest was supposed to go to mortgages and investments, and I didn't look at that. I just focused on keeping my budget, stay focused on it. And 2016, got a letter from the people who had the mortgage with, and they were saying you're behind in payments, and I was just like, no way. And then went to the bank. Those days in your life where you'll never forget that day. Yeah, that's a day I'll never forget. 2016, December 27. And just went to the bank and just saw all the transactions that were going out to his account onto his holidays, bro.
Let's go back to that day, because you say all those transactions, for those who don't know, and I don't think Mark and John know, 937 unauthorized transactions from your business account. And this was all found out by New Zealand High Court. And what's so disgusting about all of this, and nothing would be right, but what makes it worse, I imagine, is that it was spent on overseas holidays for this guy, gifts for his wife, motorbikes, clothes, furniture.
I find this so infuriating, and I'm so angry. I know ET a little bit, but listening to that, I'm so angry listening to that.
What were the emotions? Because is the first thing betrayal that you think of?
Disbelief. I didn't believe it. Like I just saw the transactions. I was like, nah, no way you'll do this. No way. And just kept seeing another transaction for like $20,000 dragged into his account, and I was just like, couldn't believe it. And then just saw the total figure when they printed out all the transactions, and I was just like, wow, what just happened? And the crazy thing is, like, I cut access to the cards to his online banking. Haven't heard from him since.
Because you'd given him permission, and you essentially had a joint account. And again, this is something I know a lot about. Mine was through a trust, and the person who was a trustee was doing exactly what this guy was doing. But for you, Elijah, it took 4 years to get justice.
Yeah.
And for those listening now, they might be thinking like, oh, thank God he got justice. And you did, and he won in a high court. However, same story as me. The guy claimed bankruptcy. So you haven't to this day had a penny back?
Nothing back. And I've tried all avenues, and just crazy how the law system works, how the justice system works, especially in New Zealand. Like, people are getting sent to jail for picking undersized seafood. Like, they're getting like 2 months in jail for picking illegal seafood. And bro, some blokes just stole 450,000 from you, proven in court. Like, it's not an accusation; it's proven, and he gets nothing.
Have you had any communication with him? Obviously, still alive, this guy as well. But has he shown any remorse to you at all?
No, none at all. None at all.
He's nothing. Not tried to contact you at all.
No, as soon as the bank account and online banking got cut, like, I cut it on that day. From talking to him every day, calling him, to nothing.
What about those emotions then that you went through?
Well, that's what I wanted to ask, John.
crazy,
Is how do you? Because again, and I'm not trying to make this about me, but I'm so angry for you because it's happened to me as well, and this happens to lots of people. This isn't a unique
I know
story.
that's the crazy thing.
Yeah, we'll talk about it afterwards. I mean, I don't want to bore people with my story, but with you, do you then find yourself more suspicious around people and you don't trust people?
Definitely, like, without a doubt. And the only remedy I could find, because bro, it used to beat me up. The more I thought about it, the more just talking about it kind of got you down and like ruined your day, kind of thing. If I thought deep about it, and the only thing I could come up with was forgiving him. Like,
Did your faith kick in then?
yeah,
A little bit.
definitely did. But just, the moment you just let it go and just go, okay, man, like, that's it, like. And
that's not something.
That's
you
not hard to
click your
do.
fingers
Oh,
in.
sorry, that's
not
extremely
easy
hard
to
to do.
do.
That's bro, like, but like, that was the sense of relief I was looking for. Was just saying, look, I forgive you. Go my own way now.
It can take you down that
Oh,
sort of stuff.
definitely.
If you carry that with
Definitely, yeah, man.
you, it's got the potential
Oh.
to ruin you more than financially,
Oh,
hasn't it?
100%.
I'm 38. I've carried it with me to this
Yeah.
day. That's no, seriously. I mean,
Yeah.
and what I want to get on with you, and that's a great question, Joe. So don't let me interrupt that question. But
All right.
there was the fake extortion video as well, which became a part of your story. Where
Oh, yeah, that's all right. Yeah.
well, yeah, but it was this
That was
video,
crazy.
and we watched it. I watched it before today.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks so sort of like theatrical and kind of
I
weird,
know.
and this guy saying Jace and whatever. It looks so fake and so on. But then you were embroiled in all of that as well, having to deny that
Yeah.
you were about to stab this guy with a Stanley knife in a car.
Yeah.
People watch it and they take it as truth, don't they? That's what happens in this society today. And you
definitely.
then had to sort of prove that that wasn't you with him.
It was, and that's the thing about the criticism back home. Like, Fox Sport, they actually ran it as if.
As if it was a real story.
Is there not a legal
Yeah,
case there? Is there
like-
not like is that not defamation in Australia?
Oh,
They
I'm
run
not
that
too
like it
sure.
was you. People
Yeah,
watching
well,
that would take that face value, like you were about to stab someone.
No, we
That
would
really-
do that over here. People run stories like that. over
Not with
here.
no proof that it wasn't
I don't
him.
know, it was absolutely
That's
I don't
just
know.
defamation,
Yeah,
isn't
so
it?
Keep calling him Jace. That's not a nickname of yours, is it?
what's that?
Jace.
No,
Oh,
I don't know.
What was that like when they were?
the victim in
did
the
you-
video would keep saying, no, Jace. And then
Did you see that for the
this
first
is
time on
Elijah.
telly?
No. I was actually in Cowra, like, doing my flight training at flight school, and one of the boys sent me the video on the WhatsApp, and I was just like, "What's this? This is a stitch up." And then, dead set, like 5 minutes after that, my phone just started going. Like, heaps of media people just started calling. Is there any truth to this? Like, is this true? And bro, they know it's not true, but they just ran it just for the clicks, for the views. And
Have you made peace with it?
Yeah, I've had to, like, because if I didn't, I would just be like, man, I got to get him back. I got to get him back. Like, he owes me. I got to get him back, because that's the way you start thinking. But legally, there's nothing you can do.
So I'll let you into just a tiny bit with my situation, and this is where you're a better man than I am, because I looked at the guy who did it to me, and it was not that the amount of money is a thing, but
So
it was three or four.
it was your dad that passed away, and
Yeah.
he was his accountant, wasn't it?
And it was 3 or 4 times that amount of money, and I was supposed to have it when I was 18, and anyway he tucked it away in professional fees, and I'm sure just kept silent and whatever, a bit like your guy did. And then I remember seeing him outside, and I won like you. I won in court, and I spent another £80,000 in court, which he was supposed to pay in fees, which I never got back on top of that. And then I remember seeing him, and I said, look, for me it's not about the money. You've hurt my family, you've hurt my mum. She cries every night because she tried to turn her against me and all this sort of stuff, and or me against her in that sense. I mean, he ended up killing himself. the next day. I said, but I remember saying to him, before you kill yourself, because I know this is what you're going to do, tell me where the money is in terms of, you know, easing the pain on what you've caused. And he jumped on the Victoria line in front of a tube one morning and killed himself. So, you know, and I'll never know where that money is to this day.
It's crazy.
And I haven't made peace with that. So I'm interested. It's interesting that Mark said, has your faith helped you in that sense of actually come to ease with, you know, to get rid of that anger? Because I have a lot of anger in my life, which comes from that.
Yeah. Man, that's that was the only solution I could find. Like, because I went down the rabbit hole, everything, like justice system, everything, like as you do. Like if someone rips you off that bad, you just you're looking for something. And I was just coming to a dead end. Like I went to the police, and the police were like, "Oh, he's a bit old. We're not going to do anything. Like he hasn't been in trouble before." And in my mind, I'm thinking, bro, he stole 450,000 from me, and you're not going to do anything. And the police were like, "Nah, we won't do anything."
And he's still out there, a bit like the Tinder swindler. He's still there. He could be doing this to the young
exactly. And I said that to
Taylor.
them as well, and they were like, "It's just not worth it. It's just not worth the financial fees for the police or something like that." So that was discouraging. And like I went down all these avenues, and I was like, my head was falling off every week at training. I wasn't playing first grade for Tigers, which was making it worse. I was studying at the same time, and I was just like, I've just got to let this go. Like I've got to just let this go. And the only thing I could find was forgiveness. Russell Packer actually, Rusty Packer, so he went through a lot.
He went to jail. He had some
he
issues,
went to
didn't
jail,
he? Yeah.
and after he served his sentence. I don't know if I should actually. Like he said, so he got taken to court after he went to jail by the person he hurt, and then he had to pay like half of his contract to the person he hurt. And he was just saying, as soon as I just let him go, like stop fighting, just stop, he said his life was so much better. And then I just thought of that, and I was like, I've tried everything, I've just got to let it go, man.
I think the sad thing for me in it all is trust in it. You know, when you implicitly trust somebody.
Yeah.
You know, and we all want to trust people around us. Don't you? You do. It's human nature. You want to trust people around you. But when somebody betrays your trust, who's that close to you, it's like, it's scary, isn't it? And you know what the thing is? It's money. Money fucks people.
100%.
Money is the problem. Like, if you see families and they're negotiating over probate, over a will, you see families disintegrate over money.
Yeah.
They'll stand across a room and not speak to each other because of money.
But it's what does it get you? It gets you another bedroom in your house, a slightly better car. It's the world's perception of money is so far above what it actually is. You don't get that much more enlightenment and enjoyment out of falling out with family or taking the piss out of a vulnerable young rugby league player. You put loads of time and effort in.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
He's a guy who's obviously very switched on academically, but not from probably a background where your family are financially savvy, who can help and advise you.
Not at all.
He's someone who's pride on a young professional athlete whose dreams of just playing rugby and providing for his family, and it's just fucking disgusting.
It's the vulnerability.
Were you embarrassed about it?
Yeah, because a lot of the boys were just like stitching me up. They're
Yeah.
like, bro, you dumb.
Yeah.
Why don't you check your bank account? Like,
Yeah.
why would you do that?
Yeah.
And that's why I broke down the context before I explained the story,
yeah.
because I was like, bro, like we had a relationship where it was like my dad.
Yeah.
So once you understand the context of like 11 years of relationship, 8 years of relationship, then you understand why I gave him access to my account.
Yeah, that's
And,
what makes it so. It's the personal side of it, the fact that you were so close to him, but also the fact that he's still alive. I mean, I have a certain level of peace with the fact that my guy's not doing that to someone, but this Ian Miles could be doing this to the next young up-and-coming rugby league player and swindling someone else as we speak.
People like that, that's how they work, isn't it? You know what I mean? They're unbelievable at developing rapport and building relationships.
Yeah.
They have to be to get that far into your skin that you can't see what they're actually about.
What's the ultimate manipulative behaviour, isn't it?
And in hindsight, I look back at some of the things that he was telling me, and I was just like, wow.
Well, it's like a Shakespeare. It's like Othello getting in Iago,
Here we go.
getting in Othello. Well,
Shakespeare
it
on
is. It's
our
like
podcast.
getting
Brilliant.
someone,
Come on.
trusting someone, getting in someone's ear, It is. It's Iago into Othello. It's exactly
I
that.
love
Look, we've only got 10 minutes left, and there's people looking at us thinking we should have finished 2 hours ago. So
It's
I
all
want to
good.
just
It's all
to
good.
wrap up really, and we could have done 2 hours on that. Really, we
That's
should have
cool.
done
That's
really
fine.
because it's just it
fine.
makes my
It's-
blood boil.
It's really interesting. You know,
Let's
that
find
is-
Ian
it's-
Miles,
But
everybody.
you should never be ashamed of being trusting, because that's a really good part of your character is being like warm and open and trusting someone.
Yeah, it's just the thing that gets me is like just being so disciplined and like not going out with the boys, just not going out for coffees in between lunch, just saving money, thinking I got to save money, I got to focus on just keeping my budget, and then you know, be all right after footy.
Well, and for you, it's there. It's on Google. You know, my story's not out there. You know, yours is there.
Yeah.
There's a constant reminder of it, and you know, it's so painful, really. Because it's not about money, and it's the same. I'm sure it's the same with you. I know you've come from a background where the money was huge, and obviously to me that was massive as well. But it's the principle of the story that's more painful.
But life's chaos, right?
Yeah,
Life's just chaos.
yeah,
You do all these things in life to make it organised and structured and all of that, but life will throw chaos in your way at some stage, and then your ability, and you're defined as a human by your ability to overcome the chaos or to exist in the chaos and feel fine about it. I think everybody in life, whatever you do, is going to have some sort of curveball or chaos thrown at them. Like me and Mark just been through COVID with our business.
yeah.
It was chaos flash, wasn't it?
Yeah,
2
Still
years,
is, but
2
yeah.
years of fucking chaos.
yeah.
Like, Will, you know, we've all experienced it in some ways, but I think the measure of you is how you overcome it.
Yeah.
And I think
or how you react to it. is
well, forgiveness
impressive,
and
yeah.
making peace with things is really interesting. I think
Yeah.
making peace with something is like,
And put it in a rugby context. Character is, I think, your character comes out after you lose rather than you win, and that's the same for life, isn't it?
yeah,
How you deal with something awful like that is your true character, rather than when times are good and you can enjoy yourself or you can rest on your laurels. That's all. That doesn't matter.
Let's just wrap up with talking about a bit about Salford and of course about your future with playing for New Zealand as well. Because I mean, was that a catalyst in you leaving the NRL and coming to Super League? That incident.
So COVID hit, and I was off contract. I think I played like 80% of the games for Tigers, and I was coming off the bench too, and I was studying as well. So I was like, man, should I stay? Should I go? And there weren't many NRL opportunities, and then I was kind of hoping of getting some money back from the court case, and then that was going to be my footy done, but that didn't happen because he declared bankruptcy, and so I was like, okay, I'll come Salford, ripping for as hard as I can, and represent the club as well as I can to the best of my ability, because that's all I can do, and yeah, that's how I ended up here, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity, and we've got a lot of work to do at our club, but we've got some good signings, and I think the future's bright if we just keep working hard at training and being disciplined at training. Things will turn around.
What was that like? Come on, be honest. Coming from the beautiful Sydney, you've been at West Tigers, Mark. You've been over there, and then suddenly you're in Salford precinct. The Salford. You've been in the Salford precinct, and you're looking at anything. Where's Harrods? I can't quite see it yet. There's Poundland. There's Card Factory. There's great shops.
Great factory.
It's slightly different. Slightly
Yeah,
different. Salford. It's
it
not
is
Manchester.
different.
It's Salford. Slightly different.
Very.
Yeah.
I think the north of England is very similar to New Zealand.
Very similar.
People are very similar.
Very
Weather,
similar. Weather,
the old vibe, very similar. And
Yeah, farmlands,
Yeah.
like just out the city. It's very similar. Like culture's very similar as well. It's heaps chill, and I kind of enjoyed getting away from Sydney from the pressure that the NRL brought. Over here, there's no pressure. Like if I have an average game, I'm not gonna get cooked in the papers, or I'm not gonna get chopped up, on the television at 7:00. You can just.
But
go about
you have your other pressures because you're the captain now, aren't you, as well? And obviously, even the time you've been here, you've lost a coach in Richard Marshall. Paul Rowley's come in, who was just before you at Toronto, I think, wasn't he? Paul
Yeah, I
Rowley?
don't know.
Yeah. Mark, Paul Rowley.
Yep.
But there's that pressure in the sense, and you felt the pressure when you were at Salford as well, and you guys did unbelievably to get to a Challenge Cup final and to get to a grand final, which you were punching above your weight. But those Salford fans are very expectant, even though they, perhaps shouldn't be in terms of where they think they should be punching with in the Super
I think Salford fans are are expectant and of attitude and effort.
That's it.
As long as you deliver on the pitch, and I know Elijah does for the way he plays. As long as you deliver effort and give it your all for the shirt, they're not bothered. Probably most rugby league clubs are the same, but probably the three of us as well. You put more pressure on yourself and your own performance than fans and TV critics might do anyway. So it's just that external noise that's much better in the UK to kind of concentrate on your game.
Are you a full captain? Because Mark was
I was
you're third.
50%.
Was it
Probably 49.
25? Yeah, 49%.
49%.
Lee Mossop was kind of the captain.
honestly, like Sneedy, bro, he's a good player, man. He should have had some time in the NRL. Kicking game,
Yeah.
awesome kicking game. I ain't seen anything like it.
He's an older blood like me, you see, so
Yeah,
we've both got good kicking
just,
games.
Yeah, just heaps smart. Yeah, he does most of the talking. Obviously, the halves do most of the talking, especially in the game. Like when you're in the middle and you're in the third man washing machine, like you ain't got much to say because you're tired.
You just can't even see.
Yeah. And your
Just
head's
tackle wrong,
squeezing.
tackle wrong.
And like they do most of the talking, like, and that's cool with me because I just got to focus on making sure my efforts are proper and I'm doing the best my job as I can and making sure I lead my teammates.
But you've been pleasantly surprised by Super League. As you said, that first game, you were like, wow, okay, I wasn't expecting this. You know, the atmosphere, the attitude, the physicality, everything. Probably not really what you thought little old Super League when you were smashing it up in the NRL.
No, I didn't think Little World Super League, like, I know a lot of players that came here and they said, the footy's cool. It's a lot more attacking football compared to NRL, where NRL's focused on complete sets, kick long, wait for them to make a mistake. Where over here, it's like, if it's on shift, doesn't matter what time on the game it's on, or throw the offload whenever. It doesn't matter what context or where you are on the field, just throw it. And that's kind of a relief. You're not stuck into getting to points. You're not fixated on, you've got to get to the near post or you got to get to the 50 and play the ball as quick as you can to get that ruck speed. Like over here, it's like you can crab across the field, roll a short ball, hit a hole. Like it's just so different compared to the way they play, the way they think about the footy is different between NRL and Super League.
A couple more bits of rugby league before we finish. Planning on staying? Thought about it yet? Like to stay?
Yeah,
Want to go back to Australia? Want to go back to New Zealand?
I'd love to stay. My family love it here. I'd love to stay here in Super League. But footy is footy. Like anything can happen. As you said before, coaches can change. Like anything can happen. Like in rugby league. So I'll just be content with whatever happens.
There's a lot of great airlines based in Manchester.
Yes.
You've got Jet2, EasyJet, Ryanair, BA. Plenty of options for you, Elijah.
Yeah, so
I think he's thinking away from the budget. He's thinking more Qantas and
just
British
giving the guy options. Sorry.
Just some options.
you got to
Singapore
start
Airlines.
alone and work your way up like 4 jobs. So I don't mind as long as we just got to focus. I just got to focus right now on Salford and trying to get some wins on the board as a team, because defensively we're inconsistent. Sometimes we're good, sometimes we're bad. Attacking wise, just our execution, I think that hurts us a lot. We played Cup against Wigan 2 weeks ago. We made 19 errors with the ball. Like I don't care how good your team is or how fit you are. You're not winning games when you're doing that. Not against Wigan and Wigan.
You played in the World Cup for New Zealand over here, 2013, 2017. Plans to be involved this year? Realistic?
Realistic, probably not, just because of the depth back in NRL. There's so many back rowers. Like every NRL team's got it's probably 50% Polynesian or 50% New Zealander in their team. And I'd love to. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to play again, and I'll do everything I can to do that. But I just think that the NRL experience and the youth of building for the next World Cup and building the next group of Kiwi players coming through, I just think the selectors will go for that.
And is that we were talking about Mark in the pub before, weren't we? We let our little secret. We're in the pub
More than
before.
10
We're
pints
the
we had
best. We're the
before.
best. We're the best. We had a pint.
Strong ones.
But is that where the New Zealand are now? Second in the world behind Australia, better than England. Is it close between England and New Zealand? And New Zealand's chances in the World Cup, John, Mark?
Yeah, I think Tonga, Australia, New Zealand, England.
Not much between them.
Well, I think Australia are the best team.
Yeah, but I
for
mean the
sure.
others. Yeah.
Yeah, I think New Zealand are the second best team, and then Tonga probably.
Ooh,
and
controversial.
then England. It may be. I don't know.
That's
Who
tough.
knows?
There's a lot. There's a lot
That's
of
No,
tough.
but no, like nobody knows.
But
do
that's
they?
exciting for the World Cup.
With the
Yeah.
ancestry and the heritage in Australia, a lot of players are David Fafita, Jason Taumalolo, two amazing forwards, for instance, have gone to Tonga rather than playing for Australia and New Zealand. So the talent's been distributed a little bit throughout the islands and the Pacific nations. So yes, it's going to be a great World Cup. But yeah, I think Australia are the team to beat.
Yeah. To finish, let's finish deep, right?
Yeah.
Tell me one thing in your life that brings you happiness, and one thing that when you're on your deathbed, you would like to have done.
Well,
Wow. First
Whoa.
time you've
That's heaps
asked
deep.
this question.
Holy moly!
so was the first question? Sorry. First
Something in
question?
your life that brings you happiness on a daily basis. Something that you think of now that brings you happiness.
brings
And
me
something then
happiness.
when you're on your deathbed
Yeah.
in 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90 years' time that you would like to have done.
Brings me happiness is knowing the Lord, my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. That He says, "The peace I leave you, the peace I give you." And in this world today, like you're always looking for peace. You're always looking for peace, or some calmness to the chaos, because life's chaos. And profound peace is what I get from doing His will and reading His Word. And on the deathbed, I'll just be... I've never thought of that question, to be honest.
It doesn't have to be something physical, something that you would
Yeah.
like to have achieved, like, something you would like to have said, something you'd like to have seen, done.
Actually don't know.
Probably have never crashed a plane. Might be a good. That might have been a good one. Do you know what I mean?
Never said Mayday.
Thank God I've never
No.
used that red that button there.
Honestly,
What does that one
honestly
do?
don't know. No, as long as I know that I've given my kids every opportunity to be able to do the things that I couldn't afford. I think, on my deathbed, thinking about that I've done my best to ensure they've got a shot or ensure they've got a chance. And
Nice.
You can tell he's a great dad.
Yeah,
he's a
you can tell.
great
And that's a
dad.
mission in itself because he's got
He's
4
a great
kids.
dad.
Can we
There's another 4 to come
Can
probably.
we
in
put the
next-
question back on you?
No, that's not for now.
Why
is
not?
it? No, because we've been too late. I was
You
looking
can't
at this, we've been
just
too
ask
late.
the questions
No,
all the
I
time.
like that. And I'll tell you what, one bit of advice, don't set up a trust for them and don't let anyone else control their money for them, Elijah.
it's
as
true.
that
That's
should be.
true. Yeah,
your way,
don't give
mate.
your bank account number to anyone.
Yeah.
Anyone.
I mean, that's a
Done.
documentary that you need to make in a few years' time about this guy. Incredible. Listen, mate, thank you so much
Yeah,
for being so
awesome.
honest,
Yeah,
sharing
amazing.
some
No worries.
unbelievable
It's all
stories.
good.
And I hope everything works out. But let's hope you get to the World Cup. Let's hope all those dreams come true from now on, and all for all your 4 kids that you're living in a flat in Salford with as
No
well.
worries, man. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate that.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers, lads.
And look, we need to say also, just before we finish, because no one follows us, and I don't like this stuff, John, as much as you, and I can see you looking at me and judging me, but no one follows us on Out
No
of
one
Your
reviews us.
RL on Twitter, at Out of Your RL on Twitter. But the main thing is reviews, because reviews keep us going on
5
YouTube.
stars
So
are good.
subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on Apple Podcast.
5
Even if
stars.
you just want to say, John Wilkin is a wanker and leave 5 stars, that's absolutely
algorithm
fine.
going, man.
But just go for that, because otherwise we can't keep going, really, and we can't justify that we need to keep this going because no one listens to us. It's all down to ratings and reviews. Unfortunately, that's the world we live in.
They do.
Yeah, and by the way, next time, Jamie Peacock. Thanks to you, Mark. You set that up, didn't you?
I did indeed.